Hi guys, welcome to our YouTube channel. My name is Disha and today I will be taking you through all the ICAI material that is publicly available to all the CA students. Now, as you can see on my screen, I have the ICAI BOS Knowledge Portal open and I have selected the final course here. You can see all the subjects that are available in the final course. So starting with the first subject is financial reporting. Now here you'll be able to see there are certain links available. The most common one here used is study material. Now study material is known to everyone and it's common for all the subjects. Now here the ICAI releases a study material for every May attempt. So for May 2020, ICAI usually releases the study material by December 2021. So people who have, let's say, an exam in November 22 can buy the study material in December itself because the same would be relevant for their attempt too. It's always advisable to take the latest version of the ICAI material because ICAI often inserts additional questions. In fact, it even expounds on certain topics. And generally when it does so, it has been a trend that it usually tests that in the coming exam also. So it's very important that you refer to the latest material. If you're using any older versions, then please do check what are the changes made in the new module and do refer to those changes during your exam also. So that's about the study material here. Moving back to revision test papers. Now, revision test papers is basically referred to as RTPs also. This is a short booklet which is released for both Group 1 and Group 2. It is usually delivered to your place during your study period. So it's usually after December. Let's say if your attempt is in May, it's usually after December these RTPs are published and delivered to your home. Now these RTPs contain topic-wise questions for practice. So usually these are solved only after you have done the module once. So you've done the whole of the portion once and are thorough with all the concepts. So this is more for practice. Now, a lot of students do all the past RTPs because the questions are very varied and they give you good practice. I personally did only my current attempt RTP, but from the general feedback that I've heard, RTPs have a lot of new type of questions, and for certain subjects, especially like financial reporting, the RTPs have had very novel type of questions. In the past, all of these RTPs have had that. So it is recommended that if you have time, you should go through at least past last 3 attempt RTPs, but do not miss out on the current attempt RTP under any conditions. So go through that too. And that is to be done after you have done all of the syllabus at least once. So that's about revision test papers. Then we have mock test papers again. Now ICAI releases at least 2 sets of mock test papers for every attempt for May, November. Now these attempts, as it releases new mock test papers, the older versions are deleted from the ICAI portal. In case if you want to refer to the older versions, you can easily access them on through a Google search. You'll find various links to various sites which have a collection of the past mock test papers. Also, there are a lot of students who do not wish to do crash courses or test series of any external authors. And if you want more test papers for practice, then you can obviously go back to the past mock test papers, and they're a good way to test yourself. Before COVID, ICAI used to conduct these mock test series physically, but of late it has been doing so online. So if during your attempt you get a chance to go for the physical mock test paper, I would highly recommend that you do, because you would actually sit in an exam setting and get your paper corrected by none other than ICAI itself. That's a really great opportunity to test yourself and your preparation. So do go for it. So that's about mock test papers. Then the question papers, ICAI also uploads the past question papers, that is past attempt papers here on the website. You can go through them. It is highly recommended that you do. Generally, you need to do at least past 3 attempt papers. If it's not possible, at least 2 papers should be done for sure. So I gave my paper in July 2021. So I had done November 2019, November 2020, and January 2021. And trust me, these papers were eye-openers for me. They actually told me what concepts I was weak in. And it really helped to understand what are the topics which are very commonly tested by ICAI. So it's very important that you go through these papers, and the last few attempt questions are often repeated, or the concept is sometimes repeated. So it's really essential that you go through it and know what kind of patterns actually going on. So that's another point on the question papers. The suggested answers are shown separately for these kind of question papers. You can view them here in this link. Now there's a referencer for quick revision that is inserted for most of the subjects. You'll find that. Now what is that? The ICAI releases a monthly students journal. If you do not have the physical copy being delivered at your place, you can access the digital copy for free on this same website. If you go back, you'll be able to see the students journal too. It's released every month. And in there, ICAI summarizes certain concepts for all the 3 levels of courses, that is foundation, CA intern, and CA final. It does a sort of a encapsulation of any one topic in detail. So this encapsulation is sort of a summary of a particular topic. So let's see how it's done for financial reporting. Now, financial reporting, there are various Ind ASs like you may see. So here you'll be able to see that for Ind AS 2, you'll find summary charts which are organized in a very easy to read format and made very concise, divided into a very simplistic in a very simplistic manner, starting with scope, definition, measurement of inventories, going on to allocation of cost to joint products, cost formula, then the important points to refer, disclosures, and that's where it ends. So this especially becomes important if you've done your classes quite in advance and you want to revise it on a regular basis, but not have time to really go through all of it. These quick referencers would be very useful in providing you a gist in a very small period. And you can do it on a regular basis since it's not very long. So this is another thing that you may use for your reference. Moving on to the next subject, strategic financial management. Of course, the first few parts are the same. There is one additional point that I would like to say for strategic financial management is, should you do past practice manuals? So before the old course, before the new course, the old course actually had some practice manuals, which was a compilation of a lot of questions for practice. Now, earlier, the ICAI module did not have a lot of questions, so it was advisable that you do the practice manuals for strategic financial management. But of late, I've seen that a lot of questions from the practice manual have already been incorporated in the study material. And it's almost enough practice for you to get a hang of the subject. But in case you still feel that you need more practice, you can refer to the past practice manuals for strategic financial management. Going to the next subject is advanced auditing and professional ethics. Now here, this is a subject where you're tested on MCQs too. 30 marks is allocated specifically to MCQs. So you will see that ICAI has released an MCQ and case scenario booklet. Now this booklet is divided basically into 2 parts. You'll find the first few questions being independent questions, that is one some context is provided and a question is asked. And you'll find during the later half of the the booklet, there will be certain case studies which are asked, with each case study having 4 to 5 questions asked relating to the same. So these questions are again good for practice because a similar format is asked in the paper also. Also, it is important because there are certain topics you might not have done very thoroughly from since those topics may not be tested in detail in a proper question answer format. But in MCQs, those could be relevant. Let's say it could be some fines or penalties, or in case of audit, it could be some turnover limit, or it could be some essays name. So all of these might not be, you might not have given that much importance, but during MCQs, you might realize that these are your weak points, so it becomes even more important. Now, how could you study this for your CA final exams? Generally, after you're done with at least your first study read, or first read of whole of the portion and are thorough with all the concepts. Only then should you start with this. Also, you should have specific markings for the questions you did wrong for the first time. Let's say you solved MCQ number 1 and it went wrong. Then mark it maybe in a star or a dot to say that this was the question that I solved wrong, and maybe if I get time to revise, I should do this question again because this is where I'm going wrong. Also, questions which are important should be marked important so that in case the time is very less and you want to revise just a handful of MCQs, you can just go through those important questions. Also, a lot of students had this question that there are about 100 MCQs, should we solve all of them? So personally, even I didn't get time to solve all of them. I did, I think, almost 75% only. 25% was left out. But what's important to note is these MCQs are after all an application of what you have learned through study material. So even if you solve 1,000 MCQs, it does not vouch that you would be able to solve all the questions which are given in your paper. But nevertheless, it is very important for practice. Again, you get to know what your weak points are. So the more you do, the better it is. But if you miss out on some of the MCQs, do not be extra worried about it. You will still be able to manage without it. So that was about MCQ books. Similar case scenario booklets are available for all the other 3 papers which have MCQs, that is law, direct tax, and indirect tax. They also have MCQs, so we have MCQ booklets for those 2. Now, because this is a law-based or auditing standards which are subject to amendments, there are certain academic updates also which are released by ICAI. So your ICAI provides certain amendments which have been introduced during the period and are relevant for your attempt. So they are usually in bold italics, so you can have a look at them. Generally, these are updated in your latest study material, but it is always prudent to have a look at these updates in case if anything is missed out, you would want to see that. So that was about academic updates. The another part is corrigendums. Even after you have purchased the latest ICAI material, it is possible that there are some errors which come to light later on, and the ICAI tries to correct it by showing a corrigendum. So make sure that you check this page frequently for corrigendums like these. It could be a simple question where a figure has been typed wrong, or it could even be some calculation error, or it could be that some more explanation is required. So all of that is occasionally inserted by ICAI through corrigendums. So this could be for the study material also, it could be for the MCQ or the case scenario booklet also. So be sure that you go through it. It could also lead to a practical misconception if you do not look at the right answer. So do visit this page often. Apart from this, all the other points are more or less same. So we'll skip to the next subject, that is corporate and economic laws. Again, this being a law focused or something which is dependent on acts, the subject has a lot of amendments here. So generally, ICAI in its past years had a trend of putting all the amendments in the RTPs. But of late, the RTPs give reference to the study material only. So they say that all the amendments have been inserted in the latest study material, have been highlighted in bold and italics, and those are the ones that you have to refer. So it's not separately put out. But again, I've seen for November 2021 and for May 2022 exams, it has done so. So it has put out a separate PDF listing down what the amendments are. If you are studying, actively studying right now, it is recommended that you put down these updates in the book that you're studying from. Directly just write down, the revised definition or revised turnover limits just beside the old ones, so that you don't really have to remember the old ones and just do the new ones. So that would be a better method to do instead of taking the amendments together. Okay. So that was about law. Again, there are certain announcements which are often made here separately. For example, there were 2 chapters which were removed altogether for the November 2021 attempt. So generally, this is of course updated in the latest module, but it is always good to have a track, because if you have any older versions, and for November 2021, especially if you have the May 2021 module, the module would still have SCRA and Sarfasi Act. So be sure that you check the page for such kind of updates. It would save you a lot of effort. So that was about the amendments. There's also a section questions for practice, which is inserted for certain subjects. Now, these are not a lot. It's usually 5 to 6 questions which are inserted by ICAI just for practice. It's good to just have a look at these questions. It's not much, but of course it gives you more conceptual clarity to do all the problems which are put forth by ICAI. Also, do not miss out on any resource that ICAI has put forward, because it's always with a reason. And it's very often that ICAI tests on the material that it has provided. So even for amendments, even for specific updates which are released by, it has been in history that it has tested it more often. So be vigilant of all these changes which are released. Next, coming to strategic cost management and performance evaluation. The very first link that you see here is skill assessment. Now, even in my previous video, I had recommended that you go through the skill assessment here. Now, it's basically like it describes an illustrative list of verbs that appear in the requirements for each question or case is given below. So basically, these are words which are used in the question. Let's take the first word, for example, recommend. Let's say the question would say recommend a better approach or recommend an alternative treatment. So how do you answer that question? So ICAI says that identify and explain any reasonable option, then evaluate each of them, conclude, and then recommend. So as such, the definition of recommend would seem very simple to all of us, but indirectly ICAI is providing you a structure of how you should answer that question. That is, your answer should first have options. You should not directly jump to the recommendation. You should first have options. Then you need to evaluate each option. Then you need to conclude. And then you need to recommend. So this is the kind of flow your answer should have. So first here, it describes all the verbs. That is, it is basically understanding the question first, rather than being in a hurry to answer it. So this skill assessment is just a one pager, but it is very important and can go a long way to help you score in this paper. So I would highly recommend that you go through this skill assessment in detail. The next part here is, again, announcements, which is something that you need to check on. Costing is lately known for is case studies. The first 20-mark question in a costing paper that's compulsory is usually a case study. Now, during my exam, this case study digest, which was released then, was not really part of, let's say, was not to be tested in an examination, but I had done it without really realizing it was not in the portion. And I did not regret it at all, because it was really good for practice. The case study digest is actually divided into 3 parts. First, it starts with full-fledged case studies. So these contain a long context before the questions really start, and it goes into like the breadth and width of whole of the concept. So this is a very detailed question answers that you'll find here in case studies. Case scenarios are again a compact form of case studies. They are more specific to a particular topic and are very crisp, not as wide and as holistic as a case study. And lastly, there are certain skill assessment based questions which provide you, it's sort of maybe a problem or a mathematical problem where you need to find a solution, or these are more simplistic questions are asked more independently than others. So again, you could go through these two. So for costing, I have experienced it myself and have heard it, have taken the feedback from a lot of students that the ICAI material is the ultimatum, especially for costing, because the format in which the questions are asked these days are very subjective and it's difficult to crack it without practice. So it's best that you go through all questions, literally all questions that are available for SCMPE to give you maximum practice for this subject. This would also help you develop the knack of how do you really go about answering the ICAI case studies. So that's about the case study digest for SCMPE. There are certain additional resources also which are available. Now, this is again very specific, but I'll just take you through it. There were certain additional cases or questions which were released by ICAI in one of the student journal. So it provides very good practice. And again, like I said, for SCMP especially, every question is very important. So of course, you should go through this. It's always good for practice. There was also additional knowledge update which was released by ICAI in the student journal. It was regarding integrated reporting framework and global reporting frameworks on sustainable reporting. So this was more for knowledge, and ICAI had specifically mentioned that it is not for examination purposes. But again, when ICAI releases something like this in the journal, it's an indication that it is trying to focus or divert students' attention on topics which have practical relevance in the world today. And it is quite evident from the papers that they are very keen on asking questions relating to these topics. Not the exactly what they've mentioned here, but the broad level topics like triple bottom line, Six Sigma, performance management. All of these are already there in our portion. So these questions can, as such, be generally asked. So this is again something that you should look at. You should also view the student journal on a monthly basis so that you're updated with what kind of knowledge updates ICAI is releasing and have the benefit of it. Again, ICAI for costing especially, it has released a FAQ section. That is more so because during the old course, the costing paper was much different from how it is asked now. If you see the costing paper in the new syllabus today, it's much more practical, it's case study focused, and it's not just pure sum solving like it used to be. It now contains a lot of theory. It requires you to have your own recommendations. It requires you to answer on qualitative points, which was not really present in the old syllabus. Also, a lot of students asked if we should go through the practice manuals for costing. You will find the answers to these questions in this PDF itself. It says that 65% changes have been made in the syllabus. Hence, the old practice manuals have little relevance today. So I would not recommend any of you to really go behind it. Instead, try and solve as many new case studies that ICAI has released. So that was about costing. Moving on to another paper, that is risk management. So for all the elective papers, I'd pick risk management because that's the paper I had selected. So I have more visibility upon it. Again, there's a case study digest, like you know, the elective paper is divided into 24 case studies. Actually, 5 case studies are asked, out of which you need to pick on any 4. And these are of 25 marks each, and there are sub-questions which are asked. Now, this is an open book test, so the key here is the way of answering each of the questions. So again, there are a lot of case studies, separate case studies, and a case study digest, which provide you ample questions for practice. You can take a printout of all of these case studies and even take to your examination hall. Some of the questions may actually be very relevant. In fact, in my attempt, some of the past questions were also repeated for risk management, and the printouts I had taken for the past question and answers were very useful to me then. So again, this is something that you should keep in mind while you're doing elective paper. There are, of course, occasional announcements which are released for other subjects too. So you need to visit the ICAI portal to know these amendments or to know these announcements. It is better to spend this just 2 minutes to visit this portal than to regret for not having seen it when it comes in the paper, right? So again, you should be abreast with what's going on. Direct tax and indirect tax also have 30 marks of MCQs, and hence they have MCQ and case scenario booklets. They also have statutory updates and amendments because then they are all acts after all. Legislative updates could also be there. Juridical updates could be there in direct tax. This would be certain case studies which really solve some interpretational gaps which exist in law. So these could be a perfect way for ICAI to make up questions, and hence a must do for all the students. You should go through such kind of judicial updates or case studies which are released. Again, there could be certain corrigendums which could be issued by ICAI to correct any errors which have popped in. So do go through those. Revisions in BOS publications, these are again certain changes which ICAI makes in its past publications. It's a sort of corrigendum which is issued, also has the amendments. So do go through these kind of updates too. Usually ICAI marks new updates in with a red banner here called new or added. So do specifically visit those kind of banners because they could really be something that could be useful for you during your study. Also, now coming to the main page, there is a summary of examiners' comments at the bottom. Now here you'll be able to see year-wise classification. This basically contains what were the common mistakes made by students in that year's paper. So for example, in July 21 attempt, this is first paper, financial reporting. Most of the examinees failed to calculate the effective interest of ultimate holding in the sub-subsidiary company. So you would get to know this way what are the most common mistakes. When should you refer this? Ideally, when you solve the last 3 years' papers, after you have solved it, go through the examiner's comments to understand, have you made similar errors like the ones most examinees make, or is it something different? Or sometimes it could happen that you've not made a mistake, but it was almost inadvertent that you did not make it. So next time you would be careful to not make it at all. So again, this would provide you more light as to the kinds of things you should be careful upon. So again, this is very useful. But if you do not have as much ample time to go through the summary of examiner's comments, it would suffice if you just look at the solution and have your paper corrected. So this is an overview of the final course section. There's also an addendum or corrigendum feedback on the main page. So a lot of students, as you would have seen, the modules, the first few pages of your ICAI modules have an email ID for any queries or questions. So you can ask specific questions to the faculties who are responsible for a particular subject or have contributed to the development of the module itself. There's also a specific guideline the ICAI has released on the format of how a query should be asked to ICAI. So do go through that guideline too and have a look at how you could raise queries. There are some common queries which ICAI answers on its portal, that is through addendums and corrigendums. You can find it here. Let's pick any one, like for strategic financial management. You will see that there are two common questions, feedback received. Let's say there were no less number of questions which were there in the module. So how ICAI has tried to address them is answered here. Sometimes it could provide you some additional information about some publication that you would have missed, or it could also provide you a solution to some of your questions. So if you get time to go through this page too. So this was about it from me today. on all the ICAI material that is available. If you have any queries, please feel free to write to us. There is a Google form link in the description box wherein you can fill that and we can have a one-on-one interaction too. I hope you find this very useful and make the most out of all the ICAI material that is available freely for everyone. Take care and have a nice day.